A large number of promising startups stop growing after showing some initial success because their founders failed to bring an overarching operating system into the company early on. I myself fell into that pitfall with one of my startup companies, and it took me a long time to learn and understand where the problem was and how to fix it, and I paid the big price for not doing it early on as I was building my company. In this video, I would like to go through 6 pillars that any typical hardware startup company can be built upon, and I hope that it will serve those of you that you are starting building a promising company to use it as a guiding line and a starting point to think about how to bring in a structure into your companies and how to use that in order to run your companies with clarity and make sure that the company grows with a scalable system. So let's dive into those 6 pillars, and then I will go into every individual of those and show you what goes as functions under each one of those pillars, and how when they all come together it can make up a company that can run very nicely and with much more clarity for those who are running it and for those who are working in the company. Okay, the very first pillar is marketing. The second one is going to be sales. The third pillar is going to be operations. The fourth pillar is going to be production. The fifth pillar is going to be engineering. And the last one, but not least, is going to be the finance and admin. Okay, so these are the 6 pillars that the typical hardware B2B startup company can be built upon. So let's look at each one of those individually and see what goes into each one of those. For marketing, there's 2 major functions that the marketing team has to do when it comes to the activities that they have to manage. The first one is to generate leads and to generate engaged leads. So the marketing team is going to do a lot of different marketing campaigns. For example, send weekly or monthly or bi-weekly newsletter out, do the email marketing, go to the trade shows, do webinars, publish articles in the trade magazines, for example, or building a website that is interactive and brings the leads into the company. But all these different marketing activities and campaigns are all meant to bring the active and engaged leads into the company, which means that those who find what the company has to offer interesting for them or can solve the problems they are trying to address and alleviate the pain that the customer is feeling, and hopefully they can use the company's product to address those needs or those pains. So generating leads, so lead generation is one of the major functions for the marketing. And then the second function that they have to do is to qualify the leads. So not any lead is a qualified lead, at least at the given time. So when the lead comes in, they have to have a very well-defined criteria that can tell whether this lead is qualified as a marketing qualified lead, so that that lead can be passed along to the sales group, so that the sales can convert those leads into a new sales. So lead generation and lead qualification are the 2 functions for marketing. And at the end, the marketing department generates the so-called marketing qualified leads, or MQLs, and pass those MQLs to the sales for engaging with that lead. And if the what company is offering fits what the customer needs, then there could be a sales closed and a purchase order generated. So the sales group also have to do 2 major functions. The first one is to take the leads from marketing and qualify them as a sales qualified lead. And this goes through a much more rigorous process and the qualification steps. And typically when it comes to the hardware companies who build hardware and sell it to other businesses, so if it's a B2B hardware company, that means that there is a complex sales involved, which means that there are multiple people within the customer space that they have to all give a thumbs up for sales to be closed. So it's a complex sales, needs a very highly defined sales process, so it systematically can convert the marketing qualified leads into the sales qualified leads and eventually create an order and meet the target revenue numbers that is set for the company. So basically for sales is definitely sales process, which includes qualifying the leads that coming in. And the second function, a major function within the sales department, is to manage the accounts. So typically, again, when it's a hardware B2B company, the company is selling to a larger accounts that multiple people involved in the buying process. So the salespeople have to manage these accounts, make sure they all stay in contact with them, meet with these people at the trade shows, for example, so that when there is a sales opportunity or when the customer comes back to buy more, they exactly know how the buying process works and who do you have to go to, so get the approval and generate the purchase order. So the account management is another major function for the sales. So let's say if all goes well and the customer who has engaged with the marketing department is talking to the salespeople, and it gets established that what the company has to offer matches with what the customer needs in order to address their needs or alleviate their pain. Then in that point, everything goes well, and eventually a purchase order gets generated by the customer. Then now the salespeople have to pass along this order to the operations and to the production so that the order gets fulfilled. So on the operations side, there's a multiple functions. It's more like a logistics that is important to fulfill the orders and maintain the flow of the work in the company. So a few major functions that has to happen on their operations. One is to manage the suppliers, very important. So managing the suppliers so that make sure that the parts come on time, the supplier has the part to ship to the company so that the product can be built, and so on and so forth. So managing the supplier is a very important step. And also related to that is an inventory management. So which is by itself is a big topic, how to make sure that you maintain enough number of parts into your inventory so that the production people can meet the target delivery date and all that. Another function which could also be part of the supplier management is managing the contractors, those who the work gets outsourced to them so that they can start working on part of the project and deliver to the company so that everything comes together and the end product gets shipped. Purchasing is another thing that the operations does, and in some cases even the IT management and office management falls under the operations. But as far as fulfilling the order that we get from customer goes, the operations, the major functions is the supplier management and the inventory management. Now it comes to the production to build and ship the product. So for production, when they get an order, they have to have some sort of a project management. So a project management is important under the production, so they know that how the production is going to flow and what is the timeline and things like that. And the second thing that they have to do, obviously it's obvious from the name, is to build the product build, which includes how to do the assemble the product together, and make sure that everything runs smoothly. There is an assembly stations, like a assembly line for the product to be built, subsystems to be built and tested, and all that. So building the product, including the assembly stations and all that, is a part of the production that has to be done and has to be structured properly. And then the third thing that is very important also is to document. Document the production process, and make sure that everything gets captured, what went into the product and all that, and how it was assembled, and the product was built and put together. So documentation is very important to be part of the production process. And one thing that also is coming from the production as important related to the customer is that the update on the process of building the product. If the customer wants to know where the production is, the production group is going to give an update, typically to the operations or to the salespeople, to go back to the customer and tell them where the process is and what they expect in terms of the delivery. The other function or a pillar for the company is the engineering. Sometimes people mix the engineering and production, but these are the two separate functions. Even though maybe there are some people who work in both departments, that's okay, especially if the company is small. But as long as they know that it's a two different function, they are wearing two different hats, it's important to know that these are kind of two different functionality under the company. And the production, you are producing the same product over and over. But in the engineering side, you might be designing a new product or a new feature for a customer who is asking. So the product design is under engineering department. And then developing and delivering the standard of procedures to the production. So these are the documents that the SOPs, so-called, that the engineering puts together, shows how to build a specific product or a subsystem, so that the production people can basically take that and follow the procedure and build the product. So the SOPs are coming from the engineering department. Typically, customer support is also a function of engineering, which means that whether after the sales or installation and training at the customer site is what the engineering team has to do. So customer support is one key function for engineering, and as well as the quality control test for the production. So the engineering team comes up with the QC steps that has to be verified in order to show that the product that is built or a subsystem is built is functioning and is meeting the requirement. So the QC or quality control is part of the engineering. So these are the first five, and of course the finance and admin is also a very important pillar for a company. Under the finance, definitely account payable and account receivable are two major functions. The company has to know how to follow with the payments they are expecting to receive, and how to issue the invoices and all that, and also in terms of the account payables, how to pay the suppliers on time and all that. So it has to be a component under the finance and administration. Another thing is very important is the cash flow management and financing. So the cash flow management is important. Typically, higher up management also involved in here to know how the cash flow of the company is going to look like for the coming months, and how to manage that. And part of it is the financing, where the funding comes through, whether it's from the revenue, or could be from some grant programs for some earlier stage companies, or could be from investors. So anyway, it has to be planned out and verified that there's going to be financing coming in and supporting the cash flow. And the budgeting is very well defined so that the cash is being protected and preserved so that it doesn't go to waste. Any of an incoming cash for the company, which is very important. So financing and budgeting is important. And budgeting. And then, of course, some admin work like a salary and payroll, as well as the HR, are part of this group that could be one or multiple people under this this function that manages all that, and well-being of the company and the relationship between the employees and all that. And of course, relationship with banks and investors is also important. That is coming under the finance and admin, and as well as the relationship with and managing the board of directors and the shareholders. So these are also important functions that are under the finance and admin. So these are the 6 pillars that, if they are built properly and managed properly, the company can run smoothly on a day-to-day basis and grow systematically and bring the accountability and visibility for those who are running the company, and as well as for those who are working inside the company, become rewarding, and they can enjoy contributing to the growth of this promising startup company. If you want a clean copy of this 6-pillar chart, click to the link below, or go to our website and download a PDF version of it for yourself.